This is my final exam for Leadership in a Diverse World, and I chose the question, what does everyone miss when they think about diversity and inclusion in leadership? I want to start off by saying that I'm a little under the weather, so if it's hard to hear me or if I sneeze in this, I apologize. With that being said, I'd like to start. Leadership is a popular topic. In fact, one Google search lands you in a web of 657 million results. If you specifically search tips for diversity and inclusion, you get 131 million results, nearly 1/6 of the results of the previous search. This highlights that while leadership is advancing, diversity and inclusion are still struggling to join the conversation. Interestingly enough, over the course of my time studying leadership, through the lens of diversity and inclusion, I noticed everyone missed thinking about wisdom when they discuss these topics. Frankly, wisdom is an essential aspect of leadership in general, but especially in dealing with topics that may be uncomfortable and foreign. The Bible has a lot to say about leadership. First, in Proverbs 24, 3-6, it says, "By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is full of strength, and a man of knowledge enhances his might. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory." This verse makes the point that anything built on wisdom is worthwhile. It makes the point that a leader that uses wisdom is going to be victorious, and that victory comes by wise decisions in all areas, including those decisions surrounding diversity and inclusion. A second verse about wisdom is in Ephesians 5, verses 15-17. "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand the will of the Lord." I like this verse in regards to wisdom because leaders need to be wise and not foolish in doing things God's way. Jesus desires everyone to know him, and the cool thing about diversity and inclusion is, in Revelation 7:9, it says that Revelation 7:9 states that all nations, all tribes, and all tongues will be in heaven. This just tells us how important diversity is, not only on earth, but also past that. And to get in the practice of that now and building that into our corporations, our organizations, schools, and everything else is important, and it's honoring to God. So, clearly, wisdom is a major building block to creating leadership that values diversity and inclusion. How can a leader be wise practically? Number 1, a wise leader is unbiased. In the book Salsa, Soul, and Spirit, the author writes, "If a leader plays favorites, then that person's power is gone." Being a wise leader means that you're aware of your own biases and you're working against them at all times. You're working against them in making your decisions and how you treat your employees, and interacting with anyone else that could contribute to being a biased. Number 2, a wise leader raises the bar, as discussed in week 6. B stands for breathe, and that just means that when you're going into these conversations of diversity and inclusion, you take a breath. You just relax. You don't let the situation move hostile, because it can be uncomfortable and it can be a very tense situation. So first, you always take a breath. Second, you acknowledge what the other person is saying. You don't have to agree with them, and you don't have to admit that they're wrong or right. You just acknowledge what they're saying so they feel like they're being heard. The R stands for respond. This is when you respond to the other person instead of reacting towards them. You want to choose phrases that explain how you feel, explain your views on the situation instead of just getting defensive or hostile towards them. Number 3, a wise leader builds relationships. A wise leader builds relationships, and this has been a key theme through all the weeks that we've covered material in class, specifically weeks 2 and 5. And in those weeks we outlined servant leadership, and service leadership involves valuing people, developing people, building community, displaying authenticity, providing leadership, sharing leadership, listening, empathizing, healing, and persuading. This practice is wise because it takes the focus off being served and on serving others. And that's important in building community and a lot of other positive features in an organization. So it's not so segregated, so there's more conversations happening, there's more comfort. So overall, leadership is still getting acquainted with the idea of inclusion and diversity. But a leader needs to incorporate these because it's essential to God's will, because it's of importance. It must be done with wisdom, something commonly missed in the process.